Hello and welcome everyone to the Only Women Entrepreneurs podcast, also known as the O Podcast. Hey, I'm Rosemary Cescolini, who became a successful entrepreneur by changing careers. I was a former high school English teacher who decided to enter the world of manufacturing, where I mastered the art of making wood doors. In 3 decades, I created products and sold them nationwide to major retailers and professionals in the building industry. My career has been very fulfilling and rewarding, and I wanted to share my story and the stories of many other women pursuing careers in alternative industries. Now, just before we get started with our next guest, I wanted to give a big shout out to Kate Lowe of Pretty Pre-Con in Atlanta, Georgia, who introduced this individual to me. Kate has been a wonderful resource in connecting me with so many amazing women in the construction industry. Kate Lowe was featured on episode 8, and she provided a lot of takeaways in that interview. If you haven't listened yet, I highly recommend you do so. It will definitely be worth your time. Without further delay, let's get this party going and introduce our special guest. We are honored today to have Ashley Gauthier, owner of AKA Constructors in Gainesville, Georgia, which is a woman-owned construction company with more than 20 years experience in interior renovations for both residential and commercial properties. And did you guys hear that correctly, ladies? A woman-owned construction company, believe it or not. Yeah, she didn't inherit it, nor did she receive family money to start it up. She did it all on her own. Way to go, Ashley.
Thank you.
You gotta love her for taking her own initiative to start a business, and because she started her own business with her own merits, she takes it very seriously, where client-driven success is based on integrity and quality. AKA Constructors specialize in flooring, drywall, framing, paint, tile, acoustic ceiling tile, residential and commercial renovations, along with interior build-outs. Absolutely impressive array of services that are provided. Hello, Ashley.
Good morning.
So nice to have you here. Now, just before we dig into the questions, I wanted to extend my congratulations on winning the contract to handle all the flooring, tile, and paint for the Holiday Inn Express renovation in your area. Now, that's an incredible accomplishment.
Yes, we have been working on that contract, since I think beginning of the year. And finally got word a couple weeks ago that we were awarded it. So it is extremely rewarding. And I'm actually on the way as we speak to the site visit. So
a girl on the go.
We are
and I'm fortunate
thrilled.
You're here. Okay, that's amazing. And we'll hear more about that as the interview progresses. But I wanted to actually begin with finding out a little bit more information on who Ashley Gauthier of AKA Constructors is. Now, can you fill us in on your educational background, your past work experiences leading up to you starting your very own company?
So I guess you can say the experience comes from being actually in the work environment of construction. Graduated high school with my diploma, and then ended up going to college for a couple years. Wanted to be a nurse. I love children. But I just knew I wanted to make money, and I was like, I don't have the time. I don't want to, we're going to find another way to do this.
Right.
So I ended up having children and moved to Louisiana for a few years. And when we decided to bring our family back to my home state, I was looking for a job and happened to find an office management position at a local general contractor's office. Had no experience. I was absolutely mortified when I walked through those doors. But the two owners were phenomenal. They gave me a shot, and it was one of those things that the moment I got into it, I wanted to know more and I wanted to learn. And so I started asking questions. I learned how to read blueprints. I learned how to do all the contracts and material ordering and dealing with all the municipalities. And it really it grew from there. I worked for multiple different general contractors on the commercial division and learned both pre-construction, business development, operations. and finally got to a point where I was like, you know what? Sometimes I have to make decisions that doesn't sit right with my conscience, and I have to do it because I'm being told to do it.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, you know what? There's so much more to life than having to make decisions that you don't agree with.
Exactly.
And so the fact that, you know, of course, AKA Constructors came about, and it was like, you know what? I'm going to do this because I want to be able to make the decisions that I think are right and that set with my heart. And on top of that, I have 3 children. So to be able to provide for my children, to be there for my children is everything. And I want them to know that, like, it's not just a mom does this or dad has to do this. Anybody can do it as long as you set your mind to it.
Hey, old community. I'd like to interrupt this episode with an important message from me personally. Do you like the content of O? And are you wondering where you can get more support and have your questions personally answered? Then you should attend the You Owe It to Yourself conference that I am hosting, running for 3 days, August 9 to the 11th in King City, Ontario. 5 workshops, 10 plus exceptional speakers, and only 64 spots. Don't miss out on your opportunity. Tickets are now on sale at onlywomenentrepreneurs.com. I can't wait to personally meet you. Now back to our scheduled program. You brought out some really good points that actually resonated with me. The first thing is, you went to try something because it seemed like you had a lot of family responsibilities, right? Bills keep coming in, and
Very
if you
much
don't
so.
have a secure income, you know, you're going to be out on the street, and that's a pretty frightening experience. So you went out and tried something
Yes.
totally different, exactly like me. And there's 2 points to this little conversation that I wanted to bring up. I thought by becoming a teacher, that would be my lifelong career, because like you, I love kids and I see them as an incredible blessing. And to be able to have that enormous responsibility of molding the new generation, to make sure that they're people that can be well-adjusted, participating, law-abiding adults, responsible adults. It's a tremendous responsibility on your shoulders, right? And unfortunately, the way I was brought up with, you know, my family and the school situation, I wanted to impart those experiences, positive experiences, on this generation, because I understood at that point that not everybody has a stable home environment, and the school might be the only safe haven for them. So understanding that and the great responsibility, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do the job I wanted to do. And it clashed with my values. It clashed with things not being right in my own heart. And I had to leave because I wasn't going to stay there and be more like a puppet than an actual individual that's teaching real life experience and skills to young adults. And that kind of was a big step that I did not really anticipate. But I had it a little luckier than you did. Like you knew no one. You just had to go into a stranger's office and, hey, I need a job. Right? Help, right? I just was talking it over with my parents and my in-laws, and my father-in-law, who piped up and said, I have a place for you in the family business. And I'm like, okay, I that was a shocking statement, but I didn't know anything. Like, you can appreciate in your industry, you know, you got to use a tape measure. You got to be able to use your experience and knowledge to order material, because if you either under order or over order, you know what? You don't want to delay in a job. You don't want to have people standing around doing nothing while the material comes in, because time is money. And these are all things that we had to learn on our own. So the other point I'm trying to say is, if you are out there right now in the present situation, don't be afraid to try anything. Because opportunities do exist, correct?
Always.
Yeah. So now going back to our O community, many of our listeners, they're unfamiliar with the construction industry because it's really not being taught in schools. Or it could be someone just starting out like you in a similar situation. Can you describe in detail the services your company offers, and what does your role entail on a day-to-day basis now that you are an entrepreneur?
Yes. So we do a lot. So I'll tell you kind of everything we can do and then kind of like where we really hone in at.
Mm-hmm.
So we're capable of doing metal framing, stick framing, which is wood,
Yep.
drywall, insulation, paint, any kind of flooring, whether it's hardwoods, LVP, LVT, carpet tiles, tile flooring, and that can be ceramic, porcelain, marble, any kind of stone. We do paint. I feel like we can do everything in between. We specialize really in like the flooring and the painting.
Yes.
And thankfully, I have learned and met so many good young, entrepreneurs that I've kind of made my own crew or crews, to where they do run with me on a consistent basis, and that's their specialty. And that's where we're really able to hone in and know, hey, if somebody calls us and they need this, I know without a shadow of a doubt, we've got it taken care of. I don't have to stress out about it. I don't have to go, oh God, I don't know, if we're going to be able to do this, or are we capable? I know going into, what, we've got this. It's not a big deal. And, there are those times where you're like, you know what, we are going to try this one. This is a little bit bigger than our normal scope, or this is a little different than our typical. But in my opinion, that's how you grow and that's how you learn.
Absolutely.
Is by stepping out of your comfort zone.
Well said. And that's actually a recipe for longevity. Is when you start out in a business, you just do a small service. And then as you get good at that service, your clients see how proficient you are. And then they start asking, hey, Ashley, would you be able to do this? And like you said, with your experience, your confidence, and you know what? I can do it. And I'm finding also as an entrepreneur, even if I don't have the experience, I will research and figure it out. And I will offer that to my clients. And
absolutely,
that's
you
how
use your resources
for sure. And one thing I wanted to ask you: so, when did you start your company, and how old were you at that time?
So I just turned 34. My company is a little over a year old. I want to say like a year and 4 months.
Okay. So I was still in the infancy stages.
Oh yes, we are very, very early on.
Yeah. So that's good. And you got a lot of room to grow. From my perspective, our company's 48 years young, and it started before me. Okay. So
incredible.
It's incredible. And it's going on to the third generation. And we're growing.
That's my goal.
We're growing. So, and I just want to explain to our audience how that growth happens. When my father-in-law started back in 1975, he saw a need in the country for good, solid exterior doors, because we have 4 seasons here. We have, hot summers and really cold winters. And so he actually was a master artisan from Italy, where he can build anything out of wood. So he grabbed all his knowledge, his experiences from past jobs, and he just started making wood doors in a shop at his home. And then he would load them up into a pickup truck, and then he would go to a retailer and say, hey, I made this product. Are you interested in it? And they said, well, let's see if we can sell it. So he would leave some doors, various sizes, just for display purposes. Well, in several days, those doors would be sold out. And so he knew he had something going. And over the years, though, we had to transition in the fact that styles and tastes change. So we had to introduce new woods, new styles. And that's the time when my husband entered the business, and then he met me. I taught for a bit, and then I entered the business. And we saw a need to expand into interior doors. So now we have like over 150 styles that we offer. Different thicknesses, and we make them standard. We customize it, and we went from producing about 500 doors a year to over 50,000 now, and yeah, it's pretty amazing,
incredible.
And now the next generation's taking off, and they're doing their research, and they said, you know what, there's a big growing need for other services. And so they're going to be introducing a new branch of the company soon. I will announce that when it's live and running. But that's how businesses start. They're ever evolving. And that's one little take that I want to give to you is, yeah, congratulations that you have the contract for Holiday Inn Express. But there's going to be opportunities where it might extend beyond flooring, tile, and painting. And as soon as you show your abilities, you know, your good work is going to spread like wildfire, and then you're going to grow. And that's something to look forward to.
Yes, I am beyond excited.
Psst. Psst. Hey, old community. It's me, Rosemary. I am interrupting this program for an important announcement to women entrepreneurs. Would you like the opportunity to give back and help support other women in their entrepreneurial or learning a skilled trades journey? Well, here's your chance. I'm hosting a 3-day event called the You Owe It to Yourself Conference, starting August 9 to the 11th in King City, Ontario. 5 workshops, 10 plus exceptional speakers, and 64 attendees. Let's make history together by becoming a sponsor. Details are on my website, onlywomenentrepreneurs.com. Now back to our episode. So I'm going to, just out of curiosity, say if I'm living in your area and I listening to the podcast and I say, you know what, I like Ashley. I like what she represents, and I wouldn't mind trying the construction industry. So if someone just decided, I want to try this non-traditional path of a career, what could you provide me in terms of employment at the moment?
So right now, there is a strong need for project managers. And that's, you know, I speak for myself, and then of course, you know, multiple people across the industry that I know. Finding good help is so hard to find these days. And so for me, you know, a project manager, of course, I would be there at every step of the way to help them, just like I had, you know, my peers doing the same for me. But it would be to get into something of that sort, you know, that kind of role, because although it seems like a lot, and I think that a lot of people, and I'll back up, when I got into the industry, it was very much a sink or swim. It wasn't like, oh, take your time, you'll understand it. It was more like, girl, here you go, let's go. And you'll figure it out. And I mean, and ultimately you did. I did. And so, you know, I think for me, I have that sink or swim mentality, because I think that's how I learned as well as I did, it being so hands-on.
Right.
But at the same token, I also know that it does take people time to understand and to grasp the concept of what we're building or what we're doing, and to help you understand, why do we do X? Why do we do Y? And when we get in this position, this is what we need to do to, you know, for that solution or for that problem. And kind of be able to guide a little bit better than how I was guided.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
That makes complete sense. And I just to elaborate on your point, which is an excellent one, is when I was offered a position in the family business, my father-in-law said to really understand that the product and to be able to sell it, you need to start on the shop floor because it answers the why. Because there's certain designs that are not acceptable in various climates because you jeopardize the structural integrity of the product. And unless you build the product and assemble it, you yourself will not have that grasp of it. So the why is so important. I agree with that. So one thing is the term project manager. Like, I understand it, you understand it. Our audience might not know what type of job that would entail. So do you want to just give a brief description of the role of a project manager, perhaps in your company or in your past experiences?
Oh, where do you start? Um, so I guess being a project manager in my eyes is really being a jack of all trades. It is being able to multitask, and that can go from having a phone call with a customer and maybe setting up a meeting to talk about what their project's going to entail. Now, of course, this is once project is awarded, of course.
Yes.
You know, what the project's going to entail. If there's a particular, all the materials, making sure those are all correct and getting those ordered and delivered on site. Of course, having your trades readily available, making sure that they're on schedule and that they know everything that they need to do for that particular project. Depends if you're going commercial or residential, but sometimes it's going to be inspections and it's going to be, dealing with multiple trades to make sure, okay, this one's done. Now we can come in. Okay, now that one's going to have an inspection, so we can't do anything until that's completed. It's constantly being in communication with everybody involved. That could be me, it's the customer, it's the trades, it's the crews, it's anybody in between. And really just making sure it stays on schedule, on budget, that the client, whether it's commercial or residential, is satisfied and they're kept up to date. And that if there is a delay, they understand why there's a delay. And I think communication, I think, is the biggest thing the industry lacks, but it's so important to have.
Oh, of course, that could make or break the project if you don't have that bridge between the client, your staff, your office staff, your trades. If there's a failure in communication, then the job's not going to be done correctly, and then there's deficiencies, and then you have to go back and correct those deficiencies. That costs you money and delays for the client, which they don't want to have because then it costs them at the end of the day.
Yep. And I find that if you're open with the customers, because let's face it, construction, I learned a long time ago, nothing ever goes right. You've got to know when you go into a project, something is going to go wrong. And as long as you're okay with that and you have that mentality, you're like, you know what, I'll be okay. Because when that problem comes up, I'll find the solution. We'll be able to, execute it efficiently and we'll carry on. But I find that so many people don't communicate. And even if it's, hey, by the way, we're going to be 30 minutes late, or hey, the guys had to go run out and go grab some material, we're running a couple of minutes behind. Even that small gesture, at least in my opinion, it at least lets the customers know, okay, this is why they're running behind. Not just, well, gosh, they were supposed to be here at 9:00 and now it's 9:45 and I don't, they're not here. Versus me reaching out at, we'll say 8:50 and saying, hey, look, by the way, guys forgot a couple things.
Yes.
They're running a couple minutes behind. We'll be there as soon as we can. And then everybody's like, oh, okay, not a big deal. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm finding that too. That's happening on a more frequent basis. When I'm in my younger years, if I was not feeling well or I wanted to take a day off of work, I would notify my employer. These days,
Yep.
uh,
Immediately.
immediately, as soon as you felt that way. But these days, I just find that, start time is 7:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden there's a few individuals missing, and they don't even call. They don't even say, "Hey, I'm
Nope.
not coming in," or "I have an appointment." I remember if I had a dentist or a doctor's appointment, I would tell my employer in advance to say, "Hey, I'm not going to be coming in on time for this reason. I'll be in later on." At least your employer has the opportunity to, schedule another person to fill in their spot, and there is no interruption in production or productivity.
I
Communication
agree
is
completely.
such a big thing. I'm glad you brought that up. So my understanding is a project manager is not really hands-on anything. They're not going to be installing carpets or tile or doing any of the hands-on. They're just there to make sure everything
No,
runs smoothly with all the parties involved.
you are exactly right.
I don't think we're going to have enough workers to fill the jobs that we're looking for them to do. Like, I don't know how it's in your
Yes.
area. Is it hard to find people that could do the skilled trades, like electricians, carpenters, tile setters?
I mean, a lot of my guys are going to be, labor.
Yes.
They're not going to do the materials. I'll carry all the materials. It's the labor. But you find so many people, when you're having conversation with them, oh, I can do all kinds of tile. I can do the small mosaic hexagons. I can do the large 12 by 24 inch, or I can do the 3 foot by 6 foot tile. No problem. And
Right.
then you get them on a project
Uh,
and you're
like, wow.
this is not
Yeah.
what I imagined, and
I
it
know that.
really, it makes your heart skip a beat, because for me, and I mean, I know you as well,
Mm-hmm.
this is your name on the line,
Yep.
and this is your company.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have, you're putting your dreams and aspirations and goals into people who may or may not have similar dreams and goals and aspirations. And then, so you come to these instances and you're like, you really have to be able to think on your feet and really be able to get it done. And, sadly, but I say it proudly, I have been in those positions where, what? It didn't go the way that I saw the plan going.
Right.
And I was sitting there going, oh my God, what did I just get myself into? Thankfully, I have resources. I was able to make a phone call. We got it handled, problem solved, we
Mm-hmm.
moved on. But people are so quick to be like, oh yes, I can do that. Yeah, no problem. I can do that. When actuality is they may be able to install your small subway tiles, but they can indeed not install 3 foot by 6 foot tile. So you really have to be careful on taking people's word. And
Yep.
it's hard because
That's true.
you have to take people's word until you find out otherwise. So
You
it's
find out the
very
hard
much
way.
a hard lesson learned. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I tell everybody, like, even through those trials and the tribulations, you learn more about you
Mm-hmm.
and how you handle those situations, and how I go from being a problem to I have a solution, being able to keep pushing. And I think that if people don't have that mindset of, you know what, that was a mistake and that wasn't the labor I needed, or that really wasn't the person they said they were, it's okay. You know what? You learn from it, you keep moving.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I stopped from the first oh crap moment, I would have been done months ago. But
Wow.
you live and you learn.
For sure. So are you a hands-on entrepreneur where, like you said, if you got into a situation where the person that you thought would be installing a perfect tile for a bathroom, or it could be a big space like an entrance for the Holiday Inn, for example, would you be able to say, okay, step aside, I can lay the tile myself, have no fear, I'll get the job done? Can you do that?
So I actually made a post.
Sounds like it,
I
because
want
you're
to
going to tell
say
me a story.
it had to have been within the past couple months. I guess it was like around my year mark.
Yeah.
I was literally sitting in the Home Depot parking lot waiting for drywall to be placed into one of the little cargo vans. And I sat there going, you know, I never imagined being in business for a year and doing as much manual labor as I have. And I'm
Yeah.
grateful for it. And I'm
Yeah.
still learning.
Yeah.
And I am
Yeah.
forever, like, I love it. But I have learned how to put drywall up. I have learned how to sand the drywall. I'm not very good at mudding. I'm learning. It's a
Right.
process.
Okay. It takes time.
It does. I've learned how to sand it. I've learned, things you need to look for when it comes to drywall and being a level 4 finish. I've learned how to grout tile. Tile is very difficult. I have not mastered that yet. I plan on ripping my basement bathroom out and doing it myself because I do. I do want to be that boss or manager or coworker or however, people see me, but I want to be able to go, no, it's not a big deal. I've got it. I can get this handled. Paint, got it taken care of. No big deal. But I have definitely learned over the past year and a half, how to do things myself because, like we said earlier, people decide not to show up for work.
Yep.
People, have some 5,000 excuses of why they can't be there when a couple hours before everything was dandy.
Yeah.
And I'm the one going, you know what? I'm not even worried about it. I'll go over there and go sand the walls myself. I don't have time for this. So you definitely learn to step in when needed. And I think as a woman, being able to go, I don't need you. I can do this myself. It says something because if you look at our industry, it is predominantly men. So I think now that women kind of have that, you know what, I can do this. This is not a big deal.
That's so true.
I think it's fantastic.
And I'm glad you covered some of the cons of entrepreneurship. It's true. That was a lesson that we learned many years ago. Back in the early 90s, our economy went through a bit of a recession, and there was a market crash, and so we had to lay off a considerable amount of our staff because there just wasn't work, and that happens in the business cycle, right? Things slow down, and you can't have everybody at work, so you kind of keep your key individuals. But at that point, the key individuals, they were making a terrific salary, and they thought, you know what, I'm just going to take some time off. So you went from basically a skeletal staff, and you still had work and that had to be done. So we're kind of like in the situation where the skilled staff said, well, we would come in, but if you either double or triple the pay. And we're like, wow, that's kind of a bit of a blackmail situation. And at the time, my father-in-law said, you know what, stay home, we'll handle it from here. And we did because we were at that time, our employees thought we were at a disadvantage. Oh, the employers really need us. They're going to beg us back. No. What happened was, we were able to make product. We didn't have an issue because we taught them how to make that product. But after 20, 25 years, they had forgotten that we had all those key elements still in our memory. So biggest lesson, that don't be at the mercy of any of your skills, trades, because it could
I could not agree more.
they can hold you hostage. And the other thing is,
Very much so.
as an entrepreneur, you got to be willing to do what every person in your organization does, and with a smile.
Yep.
Right. And
Oh, yeah, I always say, if you can't do it, then you're in trouble.
You're in big trouble, because, like I said, you can be held in that hostage situation where, well, you can't run the company without me. No, we proved them wrong. And then the other thing is, that you brought up, another con in the industry or entrepreneurship, is when you're hiring people, they look amazing on paper. They even present themselves well in an interview. And when someone says, I can do it all, that's when a little part of me says they can't do anything. So approach with caution.
But can you?
Okay. So you give them a try. And that lesson was learned the hard way many years ago when one of our leads in production was close to retirement. So we were actively searching for someone to replace him, and hence someone from our competitor was looking to move on to our company. And on paper, terrific qualifications, experience. That person was at our competitors for 15 years. You're thinking you're getting the real deal here, right? Person comes in, and we gave him some responsibilities. And the first part was there we have a door trimmer. It's a huge machine where everything's automated. All you have to do is put the settings in, and you put the door on the frame, and then push the button, and it trims it to the precise, to 1/8 to 1/16 of the size that you require in width and height. So
Yep.
he did that, and as soon as he hit start, within 2 seconds, the machine crashed. You heard a horrible sound where I was in the front office. I heard this horrible sound, and the lead production was there, and he cut off the power immediately before someone would get hurt or the machine seriously damaged. And once we assessed the damage, it was such considerable damage that an actual internal part was completely destroyed. And the first question is, I thought you knew how to handle this machine. Do you know this machine's a $2 million machine? And,
Right.
And this machine, the parts weren't available in North America. They came from Europe. So that machine, by the time I got it up and running with new parts, plus a technician had to come from Europe to bring it, it took 6 months before we had that. But fortunately, you have plan B. We had other machines that could do that job. It was more labor intensive. This one here was a beauty because it was fully automated. But that was a complete disaster. So, like you said earlier,
Hard lesson learned.
hard lesson learned. You have to be quick on your feet. It's just like you had a disaster in your hands. You thought really quickly, well, you know what? I've got this option, that option, and that option. So yes, being an entrepreneur, every single day is a challenge, and you got to be able to come up with solutions. You got to think on your feet, or else you're dead in the water.
I would say you're in big trouble. Because I feel like being an entrepreneur, it is 99% problem solving.
Yeah.
The 1% is just being there.
And some things are automated. So we had some time to talk about the cons of being an entrepreneur. So what are some of the pros? You mentioned that family was important to you. You have 3 beautiful children. How has that helped you as an asset? Because yes, we are women. That is part of our life. If you have that intention of having a family, entrepreneurship can allow you that freedom. So do you want to be able to comment on that?
I would say for me, the biggest pro is being there for my kids. Mm-hmm. When my kids want me to come to lunch with them, I can be there. If they have parties, if they have field trips, I can drop them off in the morning. I can pick them up in the afternoon. I can be a part, I'm there every evening, most of the time. I'd say probably 99.9% I'm there. And I'm a single mom. So
That's fabulous.
The all the responsibilities falls on me. And, when I decided to do this whole business, extravaganza, I was sitting there going, okay, as long as my kids are taken care of and I'm here for my kids and my kids see, what I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I get to talk to them about it and I get to tell them the hard work and why mommy is doing what mommy is doing.
Yes.
That's all that I care about. There are some times where, customers are like, hey, can we meet after work? And I'm like, unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
Like
Priorities.
that's my kids' time.
Yes.
Priorities. And I think, and it took me a minute, but I have very much stood firm to my children are my priority. And of course, I am doing this for my children. So there are days that, those lines get a little blurred, but ultimately, I want my kids to grow up and be raised with mom. And I want them to see that there can be a work-life balance and that you can do whatever it is you set your heart to. You just have to work hard for it. And I think nowadays, the younger generations have that entitlement of, oh, well, I deserve the $100,000 salary job. I deserve to, work from home. When reality is no, you don't. You haven't put in the effort and you haven't put in the time and the dedication and what it takes to get that $100,000 salary.
That's right.
Or the working from home 3 days a week, 3 days a week. So my biggest why is my kids, and I want them to see all aspects of it, good, bad, indifferent. I want them to see all of it, but I want to be there for them. And so thankfully, thus far, this has allowed me to do that, because all the other companies I've ever worked for, it is hard, and everybody has a schedule and they have routine and there's responsibilities, and they can't accommodate for everybody,
Exactly.
because there are a lot of women in the industry that are, moms.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for people to be able to go, you know what, that's fine. Leave at 3:30 because your child's puking. Some of them are good with it, but they're like, you're going to have to make it up. Or, well, when you get home, I need you to hop on the computer and make sure this is done.
Right.
Whereas with me, it's like, hey guys, listen, my kids need me. I'm going.
Yeah, that is such a powerful message, what you said. And you have it doubly hard because you got to rely on yourself. You are
Me.
prime caregiver for 3 children, and that's an enormous responsibility in itself. And you only get one shot at it, because once they're independent,
Yeah.
they start driving, they might have a part-time job. Bye, mom. I don't need you anymore. And you lost that golden opportunity.
Right.
Right. And you can never get that back.
Yep.
So that is so important you said that, because that's one obstacle I find that women are, or even it's like a stereotype. Well, if you're self-employed, you can't look after your kids properly, but you're living proof that you're doing that. You're setting the boundaries. Hey, yeah, I'm self-employed. You got me for so many hours a day, but then when I'm offline, that's it.
Yep.
My focus is on my family, my kids, and that's important that you're able to have that.
Yep.
And I'm glad you brought that out. So if anybody's hesitating about venturing into entrepreneurship, well, we just shattered that myth. And if you really have entrepreneurial dreams, then something that you're passionate about, go out, search it. And the other key that you said is, I think part of the problem with kids or this younger generation having that idea of, oh, I don't have to work for it. I can get that 6-figure salary. All I have to do is I'll do a podcast, or, you know what, I'll do something magical on the internet. Maybe a handful of young people are fortunate enough that happens. But the majority of us, just like you said,
Right.
you have to figure what you want to do and you have to work hard at it. Because sitting around wishing that things will happen, like I want a house, I want a nice car, I want to be able to take vacations, I want some financial security, that's just not going to drop from the sky. You have to create it yourself. It's in your hands.
Yeah.
And I always say, if you're living in North America, you're living in one of the best parts of the world where opportunities are endless. It's just, you got to step out your
Oh
front
my
door,
gosh, by far.
chase them, right? And we're so lucky with those
Yep,
opportunities. So, in terms of financial
absolutely.
security, how has your career as an entrepreneur provided you with stability and opportunities for personal growth?
So it is definitely, I will say, it's been an obstacle. I started my company with next to nothing. I had a dream
Mm-hmm.
and I had a couple $1,000s, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna figure this out. I have no other option. I don't have a fallback. I don't have a husband going, you know what, honey, it's okay if this doesn't, like I've got the bills taken care
Right.
of. It was like, girl, you have got to do this and you have got to figure it out. I have lost money. I have made money.
Mm-hmm.
I am thankful enough to where in the past year, year and 4 months, however long it's been, to where I have been able to take care of my family on my own, with the projects we've, taken on and finished. And, you know, we're not quite at that point where we're making, a substantial amount of money to where I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, I don't have to worry next month.
Yeah.
I do still stress because we are still in the very, infantile stages of the business.
Yes.
But my boyfriend and I, we always talk about it because, of course, he's had his own businesses for years and he understands it. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
Ashley, the fact that you've even been able to provide for your family while you've done this says something within itself. And there are some days and weeks that I am a hot mess and I am like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen. And I really need this to work out and I need this deal to close. And, you do stress,
Mm-hmm.
but I find that when you stress, it always comes out better than you expect. And so I'm very much one of those people where I am going to stress and
Mm-hmm.
I will stress myself in circles until I'm blue in the face. But at the end of the day, like I know we will always be taken care of. I know that I put the hard work in and the
That's
dedication,
right.
and I'm always doing what I need to do to make sure that those projects are coming in, that our name is getting out there, and that I'm able to provide. So while I don't have that like just yet, I do hope that this next year is gonna be very eye opening.
Yes.
I think we're gonna hit a lot of leaps and bounds, and financially, I think it is gonna be a a far better year than, of course, this past year, which I'm forever grateful of this past
Right.
year, just because of, like I said, being able to provide for my family
Mm-hmm.
and not struggle. Um, but you know, hard times, and you learn during those hard times. And
You do.
so
You do.
we're here and we're making it, and that's what matters.
And just judging on what you said, that you're able already to pay the bills and provide for your family, it's already an indicator that you are well on your road to success. You just have to persevere. And one thing that an important
Yes.
message I want to get out there is anyone considering construction and manufacturing, those are necessities. Our society cannot go
Yes.
on without people like you and me, because there is always going to be
We
a need
need
for.
them.
We need you. So whether someone is doing a home renovation or somebody might be expanding, for example, I have a warehouse, so we are expanding our company. So I'm going to have to go seek a new warehouse space, and once I find it, I'm going to have to hire someone like you to come in and make new offices. I'm going to need bathrooms. I'm going to need kitchens. I'm going to need areas for production. So
Right.
those things are cyclical. It'll keep going because then once Ashley has finished my project, then someone will come in and say, hey, wow, I love your new corporate office. Who did it? Well, I just have to say AKA Constructors did the job. And you know what? Give me her number. And that's how it spread. So
Right.
just from personal experience, yes, you are going to make it, and you're going to make it in a big way. I don't doubt it. And going back to people that don't want to be an entrepreneur and they just want to say have a job and work for someone else, you don't start with six figures right away. You have to have
No.
skills. And as you acquire more skills, that's when you start going up in the pay scale. So whether you choose entrepreneurship or not, it takes time.
Very much so. And it's funny because I remember, this is going on my 8th year of being in the industry.
Right.
And I remember, when I started at the very end of 2016, I was making $40,000 a month.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, of course, this was years ago. So
Wow.
me being brand new to the industry, like when you look back, like $40,000 isn't nothing. But when you fast forward and you see how much you've doubled, tripled, quadrupled your income just because of the hard work, the dedication, the putting the time in when you needed to, that's when you really sit back and you're like, man, you know what? Like, you can do it.
Right.
And you can make that money. And the money is endless. But you've got to have the ethics and the work and the drive, because if you just have the mentality like a lot of these kids do these days of like, well, I want to come in at 9 and I want to leave at 3, and I only want to just push paper, baby doll, baby boy, you are not going to be making 6 figures. Like, you need to go sit down and be a Walmart greeter and just be okay with that.
Yeah, and the thing with those jobs, even though they're respectful and needed, I always label those as entry-level jobs. So if you're 14, 15,
yes,
rather than playing video games and watching TV or causing trouble, go get those jobs at Walmart or flipping burgers at BK or something like that, and get that experience. And once you get that experience, you create a resume. And that's when you're going to start growing. Exactly. So that's an excellent piece of advice that you said. You're never going to start at the top. I don't think Bill Gates or anybody out there that are billionaires, Elon Musk, they started somewhere, right? But this is the message that we need to let them know. So I'm glad you brought up some strategies and mindset ideas for women thinking of entrepreneurship. But what resources or support networks are out there for women who are considering alternative careers or entrepreneurship? Where can get a support from an association or a group of other entrepreneurs like yourself?
So there are so many. I'm only a part of a few, and I've really slacked these past couple of years, and I'm trying to do better. That is my goal for 2024.
Okay.
If you are a women in construction, NAWIC, which of course Kate Lowe, and of course how you and I intertwined.
Yes.
But NAWIC, tons and tons and tons of resources for women in the industry, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. If you are a woman in the industry, I mean, the outpour of love and support that those ladies will give is beyond amazing. I mean, like I said, I have slacked off, and that's my goal for 2024 is to do better and to be more a part of them. But I still see, the posts, and I talk to Kate regularly, but, I see these women that are always going the extra mile to make sure that other women in the industry know that they're not by themselves, and that they always have somebody supporting them, and that regardless of what the problem or question you may have, there is always an answer, and we will always find it for you. And then Chamber of Commerce for Forsyth County is another group that I just joined recently. I know many, many people over there. Of course, they have the Chamber of Commerce all over the place these days, but Chamber of Forsyth is the one that I joined. I know many, many people, some that used to be my bosses, other people that I just know within the industry that I love, and we've always stayed in touch. But you meet so many people that just, they want to do better, and they want to be better, and they want to know who you are and what you're about and the company that you're with, or, you know, that you've created. But it's intertwining with all those people. And I mean, it's literally their open book for help. You know, if you have a question, you can literally just reach out to anybody, and they're very, very good about responding or finding somebody who can help you if they can. So I would say any of the chambers, NAWIC, if you are a woman in construction, those are probably the two biggest ones that I know about personally.
Yeah, and those are excellent resources. But just to elaborate, like NAWIC is the National Association of Women in Construction, and they are nationwide. So you could find yourself in New York or Wisconsin. Just look up your local chapter and reach out to them. And they are full of resources, like you said. And also the business chamber in your area, they're very supportive as well. And I personally belong to those associations too, and they promote women in business and careers. And the number one tip for our listeners is, if you need help, just ask for it. There is unlimited resources when it comes to that.
We are everywhere.
Exactly. That's great. And that's how we hooked up, and I'm happy that you're here today. So lastly, what message would you like to convey to female entrepreneurs who might be listening to the O podcast, eager to make their mark in the business world?
My biggest piece of advice is don't put you being scared in the way of what you could become, because we're all scared. You know, we all took that leap of faith at one point, but if you don't take that leap of faith, or if you always stay scared, you're always going to be where you are. So wherever you are, whatever you want to do, just go for it. You know, you're going to learn one way or another, but I think a lot of people will find that taking that leap of faith is so much worth the risk and the reward than staying where you are and not agreeing with the decisions that you're having to make.
100%. Yeah. Don't let fear paralyze you, in other words, because, you know, moving down the line 10, 15 years later, if Ashley didn't start AKA Constructors and you thought that you'd stay as a project manager for one of your past employers, you're going to have serious regrets. And once yesterday has passed, you're not able to take it back. So dive in there, try, and don't look at failure as something that's final. It's failure as an experience. Exactly. That way you have no regrets. So Ashley, as we're winding down, how can our listeners connect with you or inquire about the services you provide at AKA Constructors?
So we have a LinkedIn, but LinkedIn, Facebook, of course, my cell phone, email, any of those ways, you're more than happy to get in contact with me. My cell phone, of course, is posted, I feel like, everywhere. But it's 678-283-2017. And then email is going to be long, but it's ashley.gauthier@akaconstruct.com.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes in case our listeners weren't able to write it down.
Yes.
Yeah, no worries that. So I want to thank you and everyone for being part of the episode today. And if you enjoyed our conversation with Ashley, please be sure to share it so that others can learn important information that can help them in their career journeys or entrepreneurial paths. If you'd like to take the next step in your career, visit us at onlywomenentrepreneurs.com and book your free consultation with yours truly, where I can personally provide you with the support, guidance, and resources you need towards a successful path, whether it's to become an entrepreneur or a new career in construction, manufacturing, and even mining. So follow us on social media at Only Women Entrepreneurs to stay up to date on all things O, and to connect with a growing community of countless women living their best lives possible. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing everyone on the next episode. Thank you again, Ashley.